So thought for the day, holding pattern. You know, when you fly, if you can't land because there's too much traffic, they put you in a holding pattern, which means you kind of wait and you circle until you can land safely. But there's kind of a holding pattern here at Homeboy. Everybody knows folks who come through the doors here come with fear and anxiety. Maybe they just were released from prison after a long stretch. Or maybe they've stepped away bravely from the madness of gang involvement. And they come here, with anxiety and fear, and they're stuck in a survival mode, and they are paralyzed maybe by chronic toxic stress. So part of what this place is about is it holds you so that you can rest and you can find respite, so that you can then eventually inhabit the truth of who you are, your true self in loving. But you need to be held first. Father Mark always says, we can't carry what you're carrying, but we can carry you. And that's kind of what happens here at Homeboy. I always tell people, just imagine there's a big old net underneath you. We're not going to let you hit the ground. And we're all trying to find the thing that holds us, that will not die and will not drop us. And that sort of describes who God is, I think. God holds us, and it won't die, and we won't be dropped. But because we believe here at Homeboy that we're called to be in the world who God is, we want to hold each other. We want to engage actively in this holding pattern so that people can feel cherished. And once they feel cherished, then they know who they are, and that's kind of a key thing. And then they can say what Walt Whitman said, "I am larger than I thought. I did not know I held so much goodness." You can't know that you hold so much goodness unless you're being held, which is kind of the magic of this place. And yeah, sometimes it's 2 steps forwards, 8 steps backwards. Big deal. We got you. We got you. I remember Ruben at the silkscreen texted me once, and he said, "I'm sending Gilbert over there to see you." Well, that only meant one thing. It meant that he let him go, So he came into my office, and I said, "Why did he fire you?" "Well, supposedly I stole some t-shirts." I said, "Well, did you?" He goes, yeah, I did. Well, it wasn't exactly stealing, because it was just 3 t-shirts, and I mean, there were thousands of them. I said, okay, so let me see if I got this right. You need a car, you want a car, you go to a big car lot, you take 1 car. I mean, it's not exactly stealing, because there are thousands of them. And he goes, exactly. All right, I'm still going to hold you, even though come back when you're ready, when you've stopped keistering your cabeza. But that happens, it's okay, we still got you. That doesn't mean you're not going to be held with a no matter whatness. I remember a homie came in to see me who was just released from prison, an African-American gang member in his mid-40s. And he was in my office, and I said, "Are you on parole?" And he said, "Yeah." And then he adds, "high control parole." And I don't know why I said this to him, but I said, how did a guy as kind and gentle as you end up on high control parole? And he says, "Tough childhood," and it just sort of made us laugh, And then he proceeded to tell me that when he was 9, his mom was a prostitute and a drug addict. His father was gunned down in the street. And on the day of his father's funeral, exactly right after the funeral, the mother rented an apartment and deposits the 3 kids there, this 9-year-old with his 2 younger brothers. And she walked out of the apartment, and they never saw her again. And eventually, every afternoon, this guy would take his 2 brothers and go camp out on different people's front porches. And when people came out, he'd say, "We ain't leaving till you feed us." And eventually, and not surprisingly, he got involved with the system. Because kids aren't supposed to be good at raising themselves. And he says to me before he left the office, he said, I'm just trying to be good and kind and gentle in the world. I just hope the world will return the favor. And so I think he was held here, so much so that he was able to eventually engage in this holding process and pattern where he could hold other people. He felt cherished here, so he could cherish others. And we're all just trying to find the thing that holds us, that will not die and will not drop us. So let's do that for each other. Engage in this holding pattern so that each one of us can say, I am larger than I thought. I did not know I held so much goodness.